Welcome back to my channel. I am Adorkable Rachel, and it's time once again for another episode of Rachel Reviews, so let's just hop into it. Aliens! So I personally really like the first two Alien films. They're both just the kind of films that even after you've seen it and you know what's going to happen and you know the story backwards and forwards and you know all the jumps and surprises, you still can't help but watch it over and over and over again because every single element is just so good. We have the first four films that were in chronological order, and then we had Prometheus, which is the first prequel, and then there's Alien Covenant, which takes place I think about 10 years, yeah, I think 10 years after Prometheus, so it's the second prequel that comes before any of the other four films. This one was directed again by Ridley Scott, who also did Prometheus, and he also did the first Alien film. And if you're wondering about my personal thoughts on Prometheus, I think I was kind of like right there with everyone else, where the plot was a little questionable and at times also really predictable, but it does have a lot of really good elements to it, and also I think we were just kind of relieved that it was a lot better than Alien 3 and 4. So this movie follows a whole brand new group in space! Go figure! They wake up again from hyperspace when the ship has an accident, but it's actually a little different this time because the crew is mostly made up of married couples, which would seem like a really bad idea in reality, but actually, it does kind of lend itself to the story. You'll see. Anyway, they oddly enough get a signal of a John Denver song from some remote planet, and they realize that it actually might be a good place to stop and inhabit because it is really similar to Earth. But when they arrive, it turns out the planet's not what it's cracked up to be because there's killer xenomorphs on the loose. And they also find David from the last movie, who pretty much brings them up to speed on what's happened since the previous film, or so it would seem. And as most Alien films go, shit just starts to hit the fan more and more, and it soon becomes another deadly fight for survival for the crew. So if you're an Alien movie fan, then you probably will notice that this film is actually very similar to the first film as well as Prometheus. They involve a large group of people on a ship, the crew comes across a life form that's new and different, the new entity tries to grow from inside someone or someone's, and then the alien, or aliens, wreak a lot of havoc on the crew and it builds from there. So if you like that formula, you won't be disappointed. But if you're used to it, then it is possible that you will kind of see it coming when someone's about to die. Also, the movie does have a tendency to fall into a couple of scary movie and horror film tropes. For example, at one point there's a character who says he's gonna go take a piss when actually he's gonna go take a cigarette. Yeah, cause things always turn out well for people who go off to do those kind of things in suspense films, right? But actually, you know what? Besides some predictable moments in this movie, the suspense was probably my favorite part of the whole film. There's just a lot of moments where we know something could happen, but it's kind of unclear what it's building up to. And most of the time when something suspenseful happens or there's a lot of tension, it has really good payoff. So when we know something's about to happen again, it keeps you wondering how it's gonna turn out. Also for me personally, the plot really did keep me watching throughout the whole film. Even though early on I kind of saw that this was turning into Alien plus Prometheus again, it really still grabbed me, and I never really felt like there was a moment where I was like checking out. The focus characters, they were just interesting enough that when someone does die, even if it's kind of a throwaway character, I still always had this like, oh shit kind of moment in my stomach. Especially since most of the characters are kind of isolated on this planet for most of the film, so the more that people die, the less likely of a chance they have of getting out of there. However, the final characters that die in this movie, I'm not gonna lie, I got a laugh out of it. I'm not gonna give anything away, but there was this girl who was sitting not too far from me. I didn't know her or anything, but when we saw what was about to happen that looked really humorous and sexual, we were both laughing pretty hard. And you know what? It's okay, because actually at that point in the film, I kind of saw it coming that they were gonna die, and I didn't feel that bad because I didn't really spend the whole movie with them like I did with a lot of other characters, so those were the few characters that I didn't feel too bad about dying. Anyway, Michael Fassbender's in this again. He plays the cyborg David from the previous film, but he also plays another cyborg named Walter who's with the group that we follow in this movie. You'd think that it would be kind of confusing with the two being played by the same actor, but actually, through some clever maneuvers, it is really not that difficult to tell them apart. One of my personal favorite parts of this entire movie actually is this one long shot where we have both of the androids just sitting in front of each other, and it's a really simple scene when you think about it because it's just David teaching Walter how to play this flute instrument. Doesn't sound interesting, but it's actually a really intriguing moment between the two because when you think about it, it's the same actor not just interacting with himself, but when you also realize that it's the same shot being done where the camera is literally moving around them, it just makes you realize that this must have been a really hard shot to put together technically. It just looks so natural and effortless. It's a really mesmerizing scene. And speaking of mesmerizing, there is a lot of gore in this movie. Oh man, so much gore, guys. So beautiful. I'm gonna try not to give too much away here, but I just have to talk about this. The first time someone dies by alien, it is such an interesting build-up. Like, he starts off by just feeling sick and a little nauseous, and yep, because we're Alien film fans, we know what's kind of coming because we've seen the movies. But they actually kind of go in a different route than we were expecting because the thing doesn't just burst out of him. How do I describe this? It kind of like hatches out of him, and there's just like so much blood and gore everywhere, and oh my god, it is so worth the watch just for that one scene. Mad props to that epic death, guys. But of course the blood is not the only thing that looks good in this movie, because actually the movie in of itself is shot really beautifully. From what I understand, they actually shot most of the stuff from this film actually on location rather than like using a green screen. The locations and the sets, they don't look fake at all, and it just makes everything feel so much more real. And even on like the spaceship with like all the computer graphics and of course like the outside shots of the spaceship, it looks very authentic. I mean, it's Ridley Scott, so of course it's gonna look beautiful. Prometheus and Alien, they both looked amazing. And the cinematography and the colors, everything just really sets the mood so well in this film. Now back to the story. When we start to see some of the stuff from Prometheus come together with this film, it's actually kind of interesting because we start to realize that there's a lot that happened in between the two films. And for a second there, I was kind of thinking to myself, maybe we should have had like another movie to kind of explain some of this stuff. But then again, as we were watching this film, I started to realize that as we're finding out more and more stuff, kind of the not knowing element is really good because that creates more suspense, and it also makes the reveals a lot more shocking. It's like, oh no! Shit! So overall, yeah, this was a pretty good 2-hour watch. I still, of course, personally favor the first two Alien films out of all the movies, but this one's still right up there with Prometheus as far as like a good watchable film that is actually better than Prometheus in my opinion, because the plot wasn't nearly as questionable. At least this one didn't have like as many confusing and questionable elements as Prometheus. This one did kind of improve on some of that stuff, and it did answer some questions and of course created some more. It does focus a little bit on the philosophical stuff that they presented to us about life and death in Prometheus, but also that stuff's not really the main focus in this movie. This time around, it seemed like they decided to focus more on the action and the horror stuff. Alien Covenant, to me, it felt more like an actual Alien film. It wasn't amazing and it wasn't super groundbreaking or anything like that, but I still really enjoyed it. And at the end of the film, there's kind of a bit of a twisty, chalky thing that happens, and it really does stick with you if you don't see it coming. Like me, I know. I talked to some people and they said they did see it coming, but I didn't. If you really like the original Alien formula and you want to see people just kind of get killed off in really awesome creative ways and, you know, just get some good action and be kept on your toes throughout the whole film, then yeah, I'd say you'll like this film. It's definitely an experience more than anything. I mean, you might walk away from it being like, oh, you know what, I don't need to see that again, but I'm still glad I saw it. Yeah. That was kind of my experience with this movie. It is worth it to see it in the theater, so definitely check it out if you can. So those are my thoughts on the Alien Covenant prequel film. So now my question this time around is gonna be, have you guys seen the film? And if so, what did you think? Are you a fan of the Alien franchise? Did you get anything out of it? Or are you not a huge fan of the series and you still got some interesting enjoyment out of it? Did you not just love the gore in this movie? Thoughts? Anyone? Well, go ahead and leave your comments below. Be sure to like and share. And if you're new and like what you saw here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And also be sure to hit the little bell button down there to get notified when new stuff comes out, because guess what? I make new videos every week. Bye, Adorkable Buddies. I'll see you soon. Bye. Don't let the face huggers get you.